Hiya, it's me, Buffalo Staple. What's going on, everyone? Hope you're all having a lovely, lovely day out here. You know how it fucking me. I'm still in America. I'm still in New York. I head back home. I think it's on Friday. I think it's when I arrive back home. And yeah, I got a little bit of free time right now because Amy's chilling in class and stuff, and I'm just at the dorm, so I figured I'd just use this opportunity to just make another video. And since the Sam Gellaitry review I did took a little bit longer to make than I anticipated, I have deduced that I'd only have enough time to make one video while I'm here in New York. So I figured I should make that video something substantial, something worthwhile. I would just do like another regular review. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do a roundup. I'll do a roundup and just like blitz through some albums that I've heard this year that I have a little bit to say about. So yeah, you know, it should be pretty good, should be pretty cool. Right, let's kick things off with the first album on the roundup. Cool. Don't like this, not a fan of this one. I think this is just really tepid and sluggish and gloomy and boring. I just don't really find her voice too captivating, I guess. She sounds a bit like a gloomier, more personality-less Lana Del Rey to me, I guess. And I don't really find that particularly exciting, I guess. So yeah, not really for me, man. Instrumentals are just quite skeletal and dark and minimal, and they're not really too entertaining or catchy, in my opinion. Hooks are a bit weak. They're a bit gimmicky as well. These instrumentals, like on Zanny, when there's like that huge blast of distortion or some shit, like pans from left to right. I just find it a bit obnoxious. It just feels like it goes on forever as well. Yeah, I just don't really like it. So this album's been getting an absurd amount of praise, a really hyped up album, and I really like it. I think the instrumentals are huge, they're really grandiose, they're full of really beautiful melodies, and the performances from Weyes Blood herself. Very emotive, very strong, very powerful. I feel like you can really like vividly picture her in the studio just really going in and just giving it her all, which I think is a really strong quality to have. But yeah, I guess my issues with this thing come in the fact that her voice isn't very discernible necessarily. I feel like I've heard quite a few singers that sound a bit like her. She's not got the most distinguishable or like characterful voice, I guess. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you know, it just does kind of remove or just kind of make it more difficult for me to really connect with it in the same way it has done for other people. And I also feel like the instrumentals are very busy, they're very like large, there's a lot going on. To the point where I feel like some elements of the instrumentals are a bit drowned out and would shine brighter if it was just a bit less packed and busy. But other than that, I think this is a really stunningly beautiful Baroque pop and art pop album. I would definitely recommend it. Shlohmo has a new one called The End. It's very atmospheric and hence the title very apocalyptic in presentation. Some really cool, chill, spacey, beat-driven tracks here. Really like fuzzy electric guitars, which I thought at first was really creative, but I do think how these guitars are used does begin to get a little bit samey. There's not really too much variation in the way they're implemented into these tracks, I guess, which I think could have been improved upon, but still some definite highlights here, some really atmospheric tracks that really just soak you into its darkness pretty nicely. I think the beat on the second track is awesome too. That's more of like a trap flavored track, I guess. Goes hard as fuck, really like that song. Overall, I enjoyed it, thought it was quite good. Definitely be coming back to this one. I dig it. New pop, morbid stuff, appropriate title, because I do think the lyrics here, the subject matter on this album seems to be kind of finding the humor in very dark subjects, which I think is sort of like an ongoing theme, so I guess that title is definitely appropriate, and I think this might be their best one so far, honestly. I think that the riffs are tighter than ever, the hooks are so damn solid, it's brief, it's just front to back, just no fillers. I do like also when they do get a bit ambitious, you have a song like Scorpion Hill, which has some pretty cool storytelling on it, more of a sprawling, expansive song, which I think they executed quite nicely. The vocals are great, which is one issue I had with their previous stuff, is I thought the vocals could be a bit annoying, but here they're just fucking wicked. Yeah, I'm not sure if it tops The Dream Is Over, not sure. I have to come back to this album to really confirm that, but I do definitely like this new one from them, and I would recommend it if you're into pop punk emo type shit. Show Me the Body. This is some wild post-hardcore punk aggressive shit from New York, and honestly, it started off horribly. The first few tracks I thought were just an absolute mess. Really gross mixing and just noisy production. I just think it just came together a bit awkwardly, but as it progressed, it just won me over more and more. The song Drought particularly is when things really like started to click, and on the second listen, it just generally just grew me a bit. I just like the punky, angsty attitude of this thing. I think it's just executed really nicely. It's just super aggressive and unhinged, and the lyrics as well are just fucking bleak as hell. I like the song Forks and Knives, like how like they're just so willing to be just like attacked by their critics and shit, just eat me up with like forks and knives, I think was the lyrical idea there, which I thought was pretty cool. Really brutal album, man. I quite like it. Tallies, dude. This came out really early on in the year, and it is a really pretty melodic, shoegazy, blissful album where I think the problem with this thing is occasionally the reverb is like really thick to the point where like it's damn near the only like majorly clear discernible thing in the song. But you know, when it finds that good balance, it'll come through with a really great song like Midnight, for example, which is one of my favorite songs this year. I love that track. But yeah, if you're looking for just some really like fuzzy, reverby, melodic, shoegazy stuff, this will have a few gems for you, I can promise you that. But yeah, occasionally the reverb's just a bit much, but overall, did like it. We can take the long way home tonight. Phonte has a new EP, which was okay. It does definitely feel like something that was made specifically for the Phonte fans who are really clamoring for new Phonte, because he does release quite rarely, it seems. But yeah, the track with Triad on the beat at the end was really cool. I really like the instrumental there from Triad. That had a lot of spice, a lot of flair to it, really nice, like, consistent, steady groove going on. But the other tracks just felt a little bit faceless, and his singing wasn't really all the way there for me, so I wasn't big on it. But if you are like a Phonte fan, you like his sound, you like how he executes his music, you're into just how he does it, what he's all about, then yeah, I think you'll probably enjoy these tracks for what they are. It's nothing groundbreaking, but yeah, this is definitely like a for the fans type EP, I think. James Blake, Assumed Form, cannot deny how uplifting and heartwarming of a listen this is. You know, James Blake does sound very genuinely just enamored with this person he's found in his life. He's very clearly in love on this album, and I definitely think that uplifts the record to something very just like pretty and beautiful and just like endearing. But yeah, man, I just think it's a bit unimaginative, and James Blake's strengths when it comes to production, I just love how just like odd and just like strange and how just like unorthodox his approach to beat making is, and I felt like that was very rarely on display here, and it resulted in his safest album so far, which makes it my personal least favorite of his albums so far. But it's still pretty quality. There are still some great tracks on it. I like Where's the Catch. I like Into the Red a lot. I like the track with Travis Scott. I think that's a very catchy song. Tell Them as well is very catchy. Really like the title track as well, the title track being my favorite. I think the lyrics on that song are gorgeous. I think the track with Rosalia, I think the stretch from Rosalia to Are You in Love is just really stagnant and dull, personally. Don't Miss It as well, of course, brilliant. The final track's also a bit empty in my opinion. Just a few duds here or there that just don't really do too much for me. I'll Come To is also pretty solid. But it's okay. It's okay. I'm not huge on it. It's all right. But it's a cool new side of James Blake to where normally he's quite devastated in his songs, and here he's just really just in a very heartwarming place, and I definitely appreciate that. So yeah, it's definitely good, but not huge on it. Croation Amor, this guy was featured on the Yves Tumor album from last year, on my favorite track from that album, so I was definitely eager to hear this album of his. And whilst I did find this thing ultimately to be a bit hollow, there were some pretty interesting, progressive, dark, gloomy, mechanical electronic tracks on here that I thought were pretty effective, and most notably the song Point Reflex Blue. But outside of that, I just found the whole thing to be just a bit unsatisfying, in my opinion. Golden Days with Simpatico. The melodies on this thing are absolutely heavenly. Some really, really solid dream pop right here. The vocals are not very, they're not very easy to pick out of a lineup, I guess. Like, they're quite safe, I suppose, for dream pop, but they get the job done. You know, I feel like these guys have a really great understanding of what the strengths of the dream pop genre are, and they just kind of play to them the whole time, pretty effectively, in my opinion, with some really solid tracks. So if you're a dream pop fan, don't miss this. I think it's pretty good.
I love SRT, as I come home to cook.
Free Wave 3 by LUCKI. This album is a poor man's Dial-It, is the best way I could put it. It's basically just B-Tech Dial-It. And me being me, you know, I love Dial-It, so I did find enjoyment from this thing. But yeah, this guy's performances are incredibly monotone. The beats, yeah, they're pretty hypnotic and shit, but yeah, it's basically just a poor man's Dial-It. You know, if you're a huge Dial-It fan, it's worth trying, because you'll probably find a few tracks. I think the third track on this album is particularly great. But yeah, it's mostly filler though, unfortunately. Nowhere near as good as Dial-It. But yeah, if you're a giant Carti fan, you'll probably like this to some degree. Folamour with Ordinary Drug. This is some pretty awesome house right here. The piano passages on this thing are gorgeous as hell. Some of the longer tracks I don't really think sustain really their runtime very effectively. They kind of burn out a little bit, but still some pretty hypnotic, irresistible grooves going on here. And again, some of the more melodic moments are really lovely. So definitely check it out if you're a house fan. I could not get behind this at all. I found this thing absurdly annoying, extremely aggravating. The songs here are just so messy. None of them have like a pinpoint thing about them that you could like pick out and be like, oh yeah, I really think this is done well. It all just bleeds together very messily, with some pretty obnoxious vocals, some really annoying grungy riffs. I just can't get behind what's going on here. I just think it's very messy and gross. Although I will say the closer was pretty endearing, I guess. So I'll give it that. But yeah, not for me at all. Gaijin Blues. This is a sick EP, probably one of my favorite EPs this year, if not my favorite EP this year. Some sick Japanese-influenced house music, and the track titles are enough to convince me it's worth a listen, because they're all video game references, which I think is cool. But hey, regardless, yeah, man, some of the melodies here are sick as fuck. The sampling is awesome. The drum rhythms are just super infectious. Yeah, really cool little house EP. I would definitely recommend it. Homeshake with Helium. This thing is pretty damn derivative and bland, but hey, it's pretty comfy. I think it's pretty passively nice in the background, even if it does not have an original bone in its body, but it's still, I guess, well executed enough for me to say it's okay. I thought it was pleasant, but that's about as far as I'd go. Rome, man, I did not enjoy this at all. I thought the vocals sucked. I thought they were really annoying. I also feel like these tracks often just sound as if they think they are the most important thing ever, which is never the case. I feel like these tracks are really overly ambitious or something, or not necessarily ambitious, maybe indulgent is the right word. I don't know, they just sound really like huge but hollow ultimately, you know, and I just didn't really find it very satisfying to listen to. I just found it just burned out really quickly. It burnt out really quickly, I should say, by around like track 4. I felt like I get the point, and it's just not something I like hearing. So yeah. Ultramarine, Signals into Space. Track 3 on this album is awesome. Oh my god, it's great. This thing, man, it's a very comfy, artful, ambient techno album that I think has some pretty sick sound design, man. Some of the synth work on here is really, really mesmerizing, and I respect it like crazy for that. If you're an electronic fan, if you're into ambient sort of, I guess, hypnotic electronic techno type shit, this is definitely worth a look. Soilwork! Oh my god! Oh my god! This album fucking rocks! Oh my god! Yeah, no. I did not like this at all. This album felt like it was doing everything it can to convince you that it rocks super fucking hard and the fucking 27 melodies every 5 seconds. There's just fucking, yeah, it was just sickeningly oppressive with its aggression to the point where it was just a bit like, okay, come off it, dude. It's just, there's nothing really at the center of this album to me. I just found it really annoying. Not for me at all. Black To Comm with 7 Horses for 7 Kings. This thing is terrifying. This thing is incredibly nightmarish, dark, ambient music. I think the stretch, track 2, 3, and 4, that 3-track stretch is fucking nightmare fuel. Holy God. 3rd track especially. That fucking guitar sample is harrowing as hell. But, yeah, bro. Yeah, I will say the issue I have with this thing is that it's like every track is shooting to be as freakish as possible to the point where the album as a whole, like when you get like into the second half, it's like, okay, another really freakish track. Okay, another really insane, freakish, nightmarish track. And I feel like some tonal variety would have made the especially freakish moments hit even harder, I guess. But it doesn't really do that. It's just kind of shooting to be as scary as it can be. And it's effective at it, it's good at it, but, you know, some do it better than others, and I feel like, you know, you could cut out a few tracks and maybe replace them with some more kind of, like, you know, passive moments to really make, you know, the experience a bit more varied, I guess, or something. But yeah, you know, regardless, it's still definitely worth a try.
Ain't no cracking that code, ain't no safety on locks.
Guns by Quelle Chris. The politically charged subject matter on this thing is handled really nicely. The way it tackles gun violence and the political climate of America and in their response to the increasing abundance of gun violence, I think is really poignant and effective. The writing is really good on here. Production is hit or miss for me. I think the second half, the beats are just consistently fantastic. Throughout the entirety of the second half, I think they really pick up. Because I don't really like some beats in the first half, don't really rub me the right way, particularly the song Mind Your Business. I don't like the beat on there at all. I just find it a bit clunky and awkward personally. And some of the hooks are insanely repetitive and obnoxious. Again, Mind Your Business, I find that just very annoying. I just think the repetitive nature of the album, just the fact that a lot of these hooks and refrains are just so redundant and they just kind of incessantly repeat 1 or 2 lines. I just think that approach is just a bit annoying, or just the way it's executed is a bit annoying on this album, but I do love some of these tracks. I think the title track is excellent. I think Obamacare is excellent. You, Me, and Nobody Else, yeah, love that one. That's a fantastic song. The song with James Acaster too, Straight Shot, gives me chills, honestly. That song's really, really artful and lovely. Definitely some highlights, but a bit inconsistent for me, and some of the hooks and beats just didn't really appeal to me much. So overall, I'd go 6, but hey, not a slump at all for the guy. It's, if you're a Quelle Chris fan, you'll you know, definitely love this. You know, you won't be like, oh, what the hell happened to Quelle Chris? He's, you know, it's another quality album for the guy. So hey, props. Rian Treanor with Ataxia on Planet Moon. Phenomenal label. Oh shit, Jesus. Phenomenal label, by the way. If you're an electronic fan, look up Planet Moon. Some amazing artists on there. And the production on this album is fucking mental, fam. Christ alive. The production here is sick as hell. And quite a lot of variety too. You know, the sound palette here is really varied, you know. So I will say some of the vocal samples, especially on the opening track, the vocals in the opening track were horrid. Did not like that at all. But when this thing really gets going, it gets really detailed and like experimental and crazy. It gets fucking awesome, honestly. Some sick moments on here, and just the sound design is very, very my thing as well. I will say, bit of bias maybe going on. I do think just some of the sharp like laser sound effects pinging off and shit. I just love that shit. Man. Really, really all for it. So hey, recommend it if you're looking for some pretty manic and frenzied IDM stuff. The Twilight Sad. I feel like this album doesn't have that much song variety. I feel like a lot of these tracks just feel like the same song, but just written slightly differently or something. But that being said, though, I do think the kind of misery and introspective sort of like reflection and bleakness in some of the lyrics on this thing was pretty poignant. I think the lead singer, Doesn't always run me the right way, but I do think he's very emotive, and I think that's all he really needs to be. Some of the hooks are really solid, some of the melodies are really great. I'm Not Here Missing Face is a particular standout for me. Overall, I'd go 7 out of 10. Quite liked it, need to hear more of this band. Production on this album is porn, bro. God damn, it sounds like the beats on this thing sound like some rap songs. If some rap songs was, you know, mentally decent and not completely fucked, I guess. You know, if Earl wasn't emotionally devastated on that album, I feel like the music would sound something like this, I guess, if that makes any sense. And even though Maxo's rapping, it's not the most discernible in the game, it's not the most standout, I think he has a lot of confidence, I think he has a lot of strength, a lot of just like concise, just direct attitude. I think he delivers his words really nicely. I think he's got a great flow too. And again, production, lovely. It's very short, 30 minutes, really, really solid rap release right here. One of the better hip-hop albums of the year so far, I think. Definitely worth a listen. Black Dresses, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure what I expected going into this. It's basically just waist isolation, but even noisier. It's even fucking noisier. It's less poppy, though, I guess, but yeah, it's even harsher, even more abrasive, and that was what I did not like about Waist Isolation, was the fact that it was very obnoxious and loud, and the vocals were super whiny, and just, Jesus, the production is so horrible. God, the mixing is purposely fucked, like it's on purpose, like really industrial and crazy, but I just don't find it remotely nice to listen to at all. I just find it incredibly grating, and they just kind of turned up everything that made them annoying to me before on this album, but I think there is some genuinely pretty thought-provoking and powerful songwriting on this thing, so I did find some value here. But yeah, musically this thing is just a train wreck in my eyes, so I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, if you're looking for just some, you know, some trans anthems delivered in some very wild, manic, industrial pop musical landscapes, then hey, go give it a shot. But yeah, not for me, not for me. Felusu, yo, this is fire. Oh my god, this is so fire, bro. This is some sick, really, really, out there math rock with some fucking aggressive as hell moments, some more electronic moments. The melodies of this thing are just absolute earworms. The vocals are sick. This is just some stellar math rock type shit. J-pop influence, a big J-pop influence too. But I think every single genre this thing pulls from and the way it blends them all together is just executed fantastically. It's very short, around 20 or so minutes, and it's an absolute thrill ride, man. I think it's one of the best things released this year. Would highly recommend hearing this. Felusu is the voice between us. It's fucking wicked. Joose Keskitalo. This is a weird one, bro. This is like it's like a folk album, I guess, but it darts from idea to idea pretty interestingly. The use of instruments such as just strings and harmonica, to me, was quite uncomfortable and made the songs feel a bit clunky, and the lead voice at the helm was a bit drab, so I didn't really find it too entertaining, but I definitely do respect this thing for being quite different. As far as like contemporary folk music goes, there's not really much out there quite like this. It's definitely on the weird side, and I respect it for that. It's a very atmospheric listen. It's not really a very instantaneous or, you know, ear-grabbing album. It's one you just kind of gotta let wash over you, and if it hits you, it hits you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But for me, it was a bit of a middle-of-the-road type deal. It might be worth a revisit though, but yeah, I thought it was okay. Christoph De Babalon has a new EP called Hectic Shakes. Some pretty spooky breakbeat shit going on right here, although I do kind of feel like this EP is just the same song 4 times, but with just a few subtle progressions, tweaks, I guess, but it's not really got the most variation. But still, the atmosphere is hard to deny, so credit where it's due. And yeah, I just think generally Christoph is just really good at just conjuring a breakbeat rhythm that just has a really just sort of creepy undertone to it. It's just really hard to just look away from, and I really love that. So I did like the CP, nothing crazy, I thought it was okay, not a whole lot of variety, but still definitely worth a shot. Teeth of the Sea with Wraith. Bro, this thing was just a giant crescendo to nothing, it felt like. I felt like this whole thing was just building to something fucking magnificent, but it just never hit that point. There are elements of jazz, elements of post-rock, elements of fucking ambient and electronic music, and none of it, I thought, came together to really form any sort of character that I could really latch myself onto or anything like that. It just kind of felt like it was a giant bridge to nowhere with some cool ideas. I think the second last track is pretty sick, but ultimately it's a no from me. And that lead synth line on the 8-minute long song, I think it's called Visitor, got absurdly grating to me, man. Jesus, that was the one you chose to be 8 minutes? Fucking hell. God, that got annoying. But yeah, so overall, feeling I'd say a 5. Just thought it was alright. Marshmello has teamed up with none other than SOB RBE for a 3-track EP. I don't know what it was about SOB RBE sound that made Marshmello go, holy shit, we gotta work together. What the fuck? Two completely opposing sounds. And vice versa, like, I don't know what the fuck, how this came together. It's actually not, like, horrible. I just think it's a very average trap EP. Like, it doesn't sound like Marshmello was involved at all. Like, it genuinely just sounds like an SOB RBE EP. Like, you know, like there's no like over-the-top dubstep drops or anything. I don't really, it's just an SOB RBE EP. It's okay. It's nothing, it's pretty derivative, it's pretty formulaic, it's nothing you haven't heard before. And so I'll give it a 5, just because it's just whatever. It's not really good, not really bad, it's just whatever. But it's surprisingly not intolerable. You know, again, Marshmello's hands sound like they are nowhere to be seen at all. But hey, it is, I'm just amazed that this actually happened. Like, how the I don't fucking... Celestial Tracks takes an ambient turn on his latest full-length album, Serpent Power. He's normally a bit more of a deconstructed club IDM producer guy, but this is straight up ambient, and it's quite inspiring. Some pretty huge textures, some pretty huge soundscapes, and occasionally it is like awe-inspiringly beautiful. I think if this is for his first hand at ambient music, this is a bloody good debut attempt. You know, it hasn't really got too many tricks up its sleeve. It's on the safe side a little bit, but it's definitely got some moments that'll leave you transcending and floating, just because the soundscapes are just so vivid and beautiful. So if that sounds nice, go hear it, because there's some good shit waiting for you on this thing. For me, really enjoyed it. We'll definitely be coming back soon. This thing was not what I expected it to be at all, bro. I have heard some of American Pleasure Club stuff before, and I remember it being a little bit more on the kind of emo folky side, whereas this had elements of like noise and again ambient as well, and there were some pretty explosive moments of like some legit catharsis that I thought was really effective. I find the lyrics in this thing really poetic too. We'll definitely be coming back. I'm not sure how cohesively it all came together for me, but I definitely think it's a very alluring record. It's very short too, about 8 or 9 tracks, just under 30 minutes long, and it's something special. It's something very unique, and I definitely respect it for that. So I will be coming back to this thing. It's definitely worth giving a shot. You know, it's not going to take up too much of your time, and I found it pretty interesting. We have William Basinski, bro. Hey, have you ever listened to have you ever heard a drone before? Have you heard a drone before? Congrats, you've heard this new album. Don't see what's so interesting about this. I think William Basinski has made much more emotive and stirring music in the past. This just seems like he's on complete cruise control to me. So I'm gonna go with a fucking 5. I guess it was kinda immersive. I don't know. Yeah, not really anything to rave about here. Silk Road Assassins. This is a trap album, an instrumental trap album, I guess. I guess it's not a traditional trap album, but it has trap percussion and really like cold-blooded mechanical samples and shit, with really like sort of metallic snares and whatnot. It's pretty brittle and cold and just, you know, I feel like the perfect descriptor for this album hasn't been said yet. But regardless, it doesn't really do too much for its runtime. It kind of runs out of ideas 3 tracks in, honestly. But if you want to hear some like kind of cold-blooded trap beats with some really like, you know, icy samples and shit, then go hear this. But don't expect it to really change up much over the course of its runtime, because it doesn't at all. Flat Sound has a new album out. This is also an artist that is traditionally a different genre. Normally it's more kind of like folktronica type stuff, I believe. But this album right here is Flat Sound's first ever stab at ambient music. And I gotta say, it's fucking beautiful. This album is long as hell. It's like an hour, 40 minutes in length. But holy god, it is an atmosphere to get lost in. I have been listening to this thing right before bed pretty consistently for a while now, and I find it just a really beautiful thing to just doze off to, man. So yeah, I would recommend hearing this. If you're an ambient fan, there are some really gorgeous textures on this thing.
Wait from the lava, I stay way west, so once you take one step, you lost.
Blu and Oh No, man. Oh wow, this thing was awesome. I loved this album, bro. I think the beats here have so much vibrancy and character, and the lyrics are just so immersive. The stories told here are beautifully told. They're not the most poetic or like, you know, abstract or esoteric lyrics. They're pretty blunt lyrics. Like you can follow along pretty easily. Like even on a passive listen, I managed to keep up with what was being said. I think they're just told in a really engaging way, and you can really like paint the picture of like the crime scene that's being explained in the song pretty vividly, I think, when I hear these tracks. And the instrumentals from Oh No are a big reason why that is the case. I think, again, they're just so full of life and full of detail, and there's so much musical variety too. The samples and everything, the melodies, the hooks, they're all just fucking wicked. The song Boogie to Flex is especially such a fucking standout. That beat is phenomenal. Yeah, definitely my favorite. I don't know, it's between this or Grey Area, but it's one of the best rap albums this year. It's between this or Grey Area for me. But I think this is fucking brilliant, honestly. And with every listen, it just picks up more and more for me. Can't wait to peel it away further on subsequent listens, but I do really love this thing. Toro Y Moi with Outer Peace. Now, I do really like Toro Y Moi. I think he's a pretty talented dude with a really great ear for melody, a really great ear for groove. But this one, it just seemed like he was playing it absurdly safe when it came to the sort of the composure of these songs. But I will say, I do like how he was dipping his toes into some different territory musically on this thing, whether it be like trap or just like full on just like dancey house type shit. You know, there is definitely some new ground for Toro Y Moi on this thing, but the core songs here were often a bit obnoxious and just generally a little bit just underdeveloped or safe, although I will say there were a few highlights for me. I thought the song Who I Am was really catchy. I thought New House was really atmospheric and pretty as well, so I'll keep those, but the rest can get the fuck out. I think the first track is insanely annoying. Got that squealy lead synth is just fucking gross. Yeah, not some songs here I really could not get behind. So yeah, that's a shame. But hey, you know, it's okay. If you're a Toro Y Moi fan, you'll probably find a few decent jams here like I did. So yeah, there you go. Pavo Pavo, or Pavo Pavo, I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it, but yeah, Mystery Hour, some really beautiful dream pop and jangle pop right here, some really catchy grooves, some really beautiful vocal performances too, some really great uses of reverb as well, and yeah, I would especially recommend the song Check the Weather. That track is one of the best songs of the year, dude. That track is such a fucking jam. Oh my god, the fucking guitar plucks and shit, they're so damn peppy and fun, and there's so many really exciting phases the song moves through. Great hook on there, love that track. Check the Weather is such a good song. The whole album though is just pretty consistently just hit after hit, man. I feel like fans of albums like The Beth's Future Me Hates Me or that Rolling Blackouts Coastal Fever album from last year. It kind of falls in line with shit like that. It's just like some really just like straightforward, to the point, catchy, irresistible jangle pop shit. And I really dug it. So yeah, definitely hear it if you're into that sound. Benjamin L. Turner, not a very impressive EP, some incredibly corny lines and hooks on here, but thank God this EP exists for one reason only, and that is the fucking verse from Daveed Diggs. Of clipping fame, you know, Daveed Diggs, he has a guest verse on track 3, and it is sick as fuck. Great feature. Loved. It was so good to hear him rap again. Dude, Daveed Diggs is such a good fucking rapper. Oh my god, I can't wait for whatever the fuck clipping do in the future. But yeah, Daveed Diggs, it was just so good to hear him rap again. He just killed that fucking verse. Yeah, overall though, it's whatever. This guy, he was featured on Room 25, and his verse on Room 25 is better than every verse he had on this EP, but still, it's an okay EP, I guess. It's not nothing crazy. West Coast, some pretty fucking cool shoegaze right here. The melodies here are quite lovely. The lead singer's pretty nice. Nothing, you know, that'll blow your mind, but I think everything about this album is just very aware of what makes a genre like shoegaze appealing. The melodies are just solid. The vocalist just works. It's just a very comfortable album, and it's consistent too. There are a few tracks where the distortion and fuzz is turned up a bit much, but outside of that, I had a good time with this thing. So yeah, definitely give it a shot if you're into, you know, indie pop, shoegaze, dream poppy type shit. This will come through for you. I thought every song on here sounded basically identical. I found it insanely tiring. It started off, I was like, oh, this is what this album's like. Okay, cool, nice. These are some pretty sweet melodies. The vocals are quite characterful, but every single song sounded just like the last, and it got to a point where I was like, yeah, I'm not really deriving much from it, so yeah, it's pretty average in my opinion. I have no clue how to categorize this. It's like these really huge, ambitious cloud rap instrumentals, and on top you have a vocalist who is insanely monotone and spooky, and I just don't know how to take it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It didn't really evoke much out of me, so I guess I'll go with a 5, but maybe I should come back, because this is very unique. Yeah, Triad God. Don't really know what else to say. I'll just move on, I guess. Okay, this is the most by-the-numbers post-rock you could ever imagine. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is some insanely by-the-book post-rock. You could see all these tracks. You could, bro, within the first minute of like every single one of these tracks, I swear to God, I could picture exactly where it was going to go. And the sound palette here is also just super safe. And yeah, I like mono, I do, but this was just total... Fucking, they were just on autopilot. This whole album just felt like they were on autopilot. I would recommend the album You Are There over this one. This new one is just super by the numbers, so I'm gonna go with a 5. George Velasco and whatever the fuck that, I don't know how you pronounce it, but yeah. This album, it's pretty peppy, pretty fun, I guess, but nothing really stands out for me. Every song just kind of breezes by, and I don't really know what else to say, really. The vocals, they're pretty excited, pretty animated and fun, I suppose. The instrumentals, again, very peppy, but yeah, man, nothing really jumps out on me. It just kind of floats by for 25 minutes. Fenez with Agora. Pretty sick, actually. I think the pulsating bass notes on the opening track are really beautiful. The way it swells up is really nice. The track Rainfall is gorgeous as well. The closer, too, really solid closer. Each track is around 10 minutes or so in length. And I think each one is really immersive and has some really thick, gorgeous textures going on. I think this is a pretty damn strong release for the guy. Not one of his best or anything like that, but definitely a worthy entry in his catalog that I thought was pretty solid.
Careful what you ask for.
Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel, man. Fucking hell. This album, production is tight. Kenny Siegel's production, occasionally it's a bit too skeletal and faceless to really strike much of a chord within me, but I do think there is a pretty potent atmosphere to a lot of these beats, And Billy Woods, I wish his delivery kind of varied up a little bit on this album, and his flow, his kind of unorthodox flow, doesn't always work for me, which is the case for most every Billy Woods project, but when it does work, it's really nice, and I just think his writing is just really glorious and poetic and interesting and thought-provoking, so yeah, definitely a very unique and creative rap release that I do want to spend some more time with, but overall I'd say the score that most accurately reflects my enjoyment would probably be a 6. It's just a little bit too awkward for me at points, but I do want to sit with it a little bit more.
That little nigga too bad.
Gunna, man, a few pretty solid trap songs here, you know, it's like 17 fucking songs, it's full of filler really. A lot of it is just very derivative and bland, but you know, if you're just looking for a pretty just hypnotic, catchy, instantaneous collection of just kind of watery, intoxicating trap songs, then you'll get that for a few tracks before it kind of burns out on you. This thing doesn't really attempt anything you haven't heard before, so yeah, understand that going in, I suppose, you know. So yeah, I thought it was whatever. Lee Gamble, some immaculate sound design on here. What the fuck, dude? Some of these tracks, dude. Fucking hell. Yeah, the ideas here are ridiculously creative, I must say. The synths and samples and the what sounds like the fucking cars just zooming by and shit. The way those are just like warped into these weird electronic journeys. This EP is something special, man. This thing is fucking wild. I want to come back to it, actually. It's been a while since I've heard it, but yeah, the sound design here is fucking crazy. If you're into just really experimental, crazy textures, really crisp sound design and synth work and shit, then this is definitely going to be for you. I thought this EP was quite alluring.
This is clear as the gate. 4 of my niggas had more bitches than Ricky Lake.
The samples here are absolute fucking sex, bro. If you just like really smooth, slick, boom bap, jazzy samples, love the fucking beats in this thing. The samples are lovely, and the rapper is at the front of the helm here, Fly Anakin. I think is really animated and really fun to listen to. I think it's a really solid, short, concise, well-produced rap record. I would definitely recommend giving this a shot if you're a hip-hop fan. Deerhunter released, in my opinion, one of their strongest albums yet. The songwriting is on point. I think the themes of just aging and reflecting on the past and just sort of like looking at the world at large and how people and how your relationships with people can evolve over time. I think those themes are tackled with a lot of taste, and I think the instrumentals here are really rich and lavish. I think the grooves are solid, the hooks are there. Overall, I think it's one of their most just, I think, more safe. It's a bit of a safe album for them. They're kind of just doing what Deerhunter do for 10 tracks, but they just do it really effectively, in my opinion. I think it's the best thing they've released since Halcyon Digest. It's not like phenomenal, but it's definitely a satisfying record if you are a Deerhunter fan. It's a huge step up, in my opinion, from their last. And yeah, very tight, straight to the point, well executed set of songs right here. Quite like that. The Japanese House, loved that one song. Was it fucking cool? That one song was excellent. Christ, what is the fuck? You know the one. If you've heard the album, you know the fucking one. I mean, what's it? You Seem So Happy. That song is excellent. Oh my god, why can't every song be that catchy and melodic and emotive and well written and sharply produced? A lot of this is just a bit forgettable. And I just think the melodies just kind of vary in staying power. I suppose the production is often very directionless too. But yeah, You Seem So Happy, fucking brilliant. I love that track. Overall, it's okay though. Sharon Van Etten, man. The opening track and the third track, Memorial Day, I think you could take those out, honestly. I don't really think either of them add much to the ultimate listening experience of this album, but other than that, every song is fucking great. The explosive moments of Comeback Kid and 17 and the second track as well are really satisfying and enthralling. Malibu is great. You Shadow is so well written as well. The final 2 tracks are really beautiful. The lyrics on 17, the way that just sort of like is a nice reflection of when times were simpler back when you were younger. I think it's really emotionally potent. Overall, this album, honestly, really damn consistent and likable, man. Jupiter 7 as well, really atmospheric track right there. Yeah, this is actually really sick. I actually might love it. I need to come back to it, actually. But yeah, I will say now that I do really like this record. I need to hear more of her work as well. Yeah, man. this is fucking tight. One of the strongest and most consistent and just most well-produced and well-written albums of the year, I think. Should come back. It might actually grow on me, I feel like.
Mama, I hit a lick.
Mama, I hit a lick.
I'm coming, baby, send the address.
Not as great as his last album, but still pretty damn good. I just think it kind of loses its steam a little bit in the second half with some pretty lengthy tracks that just don't really amount to much for me. The track with Chance the Rapper and Kodak Black was just straight up fucking awful, but when this thing comes through with a solid banger, it fucking comes through. Like that track with Travis Scott, oh my god, that beat is fantastic. The track with Kendrick Lamar, phenomenal beat. Love Kendrick's guest verse on that track when he does that little like mumbly bit, like it kind of sounds a bit like 21 Savage or something. 2 Chainz is such a fucking charismatic performer as well. He always sounds like he's having a blast whenever he's on a track. So I do really like this album. I think it's very good. But yeah, not quite as consistently great as his previous album, in my opinion. Ariana Grande, I don't know, man, like Sweetener, whilst it did kind of wear thin a bit, you know, the Pharrell production, at least that kind of gave it a bit of character and personality, whereas this is just a bit more pandering to commercial kind of sound palettes and shit, which makes it a bit more faceless for me, but a few decent jams here. I like the song Bloodline, but overall there's nothing I'm going to return to. Boogie, this album sounds like every rap album in existence. The lack of ambition is actually shocking on this thing. I found it ridiculously boring.
I do it bigger than niggas imagine. Heard that bitch making no rumors.
Literally everything I just said for this one too. If you're a fan of Carrie and Lowell, this is kind of just a B-Tech Carrie and Lowell, but hey, Carrie and Lowell's awesome, so that's never a bad thing. Performances, whilst very whispery and timid, have a lot of heart to them. The instrumentals, the melodies here, the way they kind of like swell and sort of like swirl around your head is just really sort of like mesmerizing and beautiful at points, especially on the song Tide. I really love the song Tide. Really fantastic indie folk record right here. Would definitely recommend it.
Get large yourself, cause loser's hard to spell without it. Part speaking.
Much like the MF Doom collab album, this one, again, it suffers from the fact that no one really seems to be giving it their all. Everyone is kind of phoning this in, which just makes it feel kind of pointless. Occasionally the beats are okay, occasionally the bars are decent. Ultimately though, what are they really rapping about? Like the lyrics just seem completely filler to me. It's just sort of like aimless braggadocio. And Ghostface Killah occasionally delivers a decent verse, but no one really seems to be caring enough to really give it their all, which is a shame because everyone involved here is very talented. And it's just a very tepid and sluggish rap release. I just don't really think it's very essential. I'm not a fan.
Clingers on, Klingons in the ambulance.
Aesop Rock is on top form as usual. The self-deprecating, humorous lyrics on this thing are pretty damn charming, and I like the instrumentals, how they kind of sound like they're sampling like an old NES 8-bit video game or something and sort of flipping it into these cool hip-hop rhythms and shit. It's pretty damn creative. It's pretty different. I can't really think of another hip-hop album with beats that sound quite like this. I suppose occasionally I think the hooks are a bit weak, but I do really like tracks like Corn Maze. I like 1 + 1 = 13. Was it 13 or 3? I think it's 13. I don't fucking know. That's everything I've heard that I have not reviewed in 2019. Hope you liked the video. Hope you have a great day. That's everything I gotta say. Cool. Go listen to some albums or something today. Do something fun for me, you know? That'd be cool. Yeah, nice one. New regular reviewing schedule and frequency. We'll resume soon and all that shit. But yeah, just wanted to get this done while I was here in America and all that shit. Just because I felt like, you know, I've got enough time probably just to fit in one more video. Just thought I'd make it something relatively substantial. So yeah, cool. Hope you had fun watching this and all that. And yeah, again, have a great day. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.